Welcome to the 2022 3D Awards Work Review. This is our inaugural year, and the jury and advisory board are here to talk about the amazing work that were awarded the bronze, silver, and gold in this year's competition. I am Destiny Chambers, VP Head of Marketing for Lippy Taylor Group, and the New York Festival's Advertising Awards DE&I Advisory Board Chair, as well as the jury president for this year's 3D Awards. So let's take a moment to introduce our phenomenal board of industry and DE&I leaders. I will start with Erica Hatfield.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Hatfield. I am the Vice President of Partnerships and Engagement for GCI Health. I also spend my other time volunteering for the Junior League of Dallas, as well as Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
I'm Stephanie Small, founder and director of Black Taxi out of the Taxi Toronto office. I'm also the founder of the private LinkedIn group, People of Color in Advertising and Marketing, also known as POCAM. Thanks for having me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Clara Law. I am a marketing leader on the brand side. I also sit on the board of Agents in Advertising and also on the steering committee for 3AF, which is Asian American Advertising Federation.
My name is Emi Kamizaki. I'm an assistant manager of communications at Disney.
How you doing, everybody? My name is Luis Alfredo Nunez, and I am a creative director at VML Y&R, working out of the New York office.
All right, thank you all. So before we get started, I want to reiterate that the New York Festival's Advertising Awards, 3D Awards, were ideated by this very group to honor work, individuals, and organizations that are taking meaningful steps to create a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive society. So this meant work that addressed issues around race, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, age, religion, and more. And the judging criteria was centered around work that authentically catalyzed action for real and sustained impact. So to that end, I'd love to kick off the conversation with our bronze winner, Micropedia of Microaggressions.
Damn, these are good. Can I scroll through them?
It's kind of a tool set up online, kind of like Wikipedia, but it actually breaks down microaggressions in several different categories, and it's helping people to identify what they are.
Oh yeah, I've had the "you're pretty for a black girl" one.
This tool helps people to look at sort of common sentiments and statements.
In this case, talking to kids from all walks of life about those daily slights called microaggressions.
Can include everything from being mistaken for someone who serves others, being treated suspiciously, denied service, or being treated as though you're not smart.
Where were these when I was growing up?
I feel like as the only Canadian on this panel, I feel like I should speak to this just because it came out of Canada. So I've seen it for a long time. The thing that really hit home for me that I really, really like about this work is that it's ever evolving. It wasn't something that's just like rooted in a specific moment in time. It's actually a living and breathing piece of work. So you can constantly go in and contribute to it as the culture evolves, as our language evolves, as our relationships with each other evolve. So, I mean, that agency should be very, very proud of that piece. It's fantastic. I mean, I can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the focus here is on the action, right? So much of the work that we talk about, and I think so important that we are awarding work like this, because this isn't something to just focus on one singular area, but something that causes action for those to learn, right? This is a larger process and movement that we're all making from an institution level and an individual level. And I love that this this is a great resource for people to also learn, as well as for us to build it on an insight that actually exists. So
yeah, I think when we're talking about the fact that DE&I, the I in inclusivity, the fact that I can participate and attribute to this, you can participate and attribute to this. and the learning aspect, as well as the teaching, that I can go in and actually, input information into this thing that, whether it's you resonate with it or you didn't know about it, and then we can, continue to ever learn and evolve from it.
So one of the things that stood out to me within their submission, I think it was one of their media hits that described the platform as really good at teaching without judging. And I think for something like microaggressions, that's so important, because I'm sure we've all experienced them, we've all perpetrated them, we've all learned about them, but there's still so much more to learn. And again, the fact that the resource can continue to grow and adapt as more people are exposed to the platform, and as more people start to come to terms with things that may have felt off, but they didn't necessarily feel comfortable as labeling as microaggressions.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think the thing I liked most about this work, just to contribute to all the great things that every single one of you has said, is that it truly embodied a sentiment of diversity to me. It actually, it impacted multiple communities. And just like Louise said, it also offered this opportunity for us to continue to learn even what we may have not understood to be microaggressions, or what we may not have understood to be something that was insulting, that was passed down culturally. And so I think that really had a major impact on me when we were, deciding on this work. I think that we can probably all agree that it was not easy to decide what our top 3 was going to be based on all that we had submitted. But I think that we all can relate to the experiences that are also outlined in the Micropedia of microaggressions, because we've all likely experienced it and are still experiencing it. And I think that this body of work specifically to me makes it kind of comments on the idea that there is really nothing micro about these habits and about these things that people are saying or believing or thinking. There's nothing small about making other people feel small. So I definitely thought that this was a really great piece of work. I did also want to ask you guys just around this piece before we move on. I think that we all agree that it was really important that the entrants kind of not only identify a problem, but really engage with those communities. I think that this piece did a great job of that. Does anybody have any insights around how they feel that this piece of work really engaged with the community directly, rather than just giving some kind of idea of what they believed was right to assist, individuals in these marginalized groups?
I think it did a good job, kind of like what everyone else has stated. It's something that can be updated and added so it's culturally relevant. It's like, things that were considered microaggressions 50 years ago may not apply today. The things that are happening today may not apply 5 years from now, or even 5 weeks from now. So I really like that it's something that can be adjusted in real time. And I think that's important, because you don't know what you don't know. And so sometimes a terminology, a phrase used to be acceptable and now it's not, or now it is offensive and it wasn't before. So I think that is constantly happening and evolving. I mean, a great example is when Disney put all their content up on Disney Plus, and it's like, hey, we recognize that there's probably some classic films that are very problematic now, and we're sorry. But again, you have to recognize that the time and, space that happened in, that's just what was acceptable, unfortunately. So I think that, like everyone else has said, the fact that it's an evolving, breathing kind of platform makes it really special.
All right. Well, with that said, let's move on to our Silver Award winner, Unilever's Degree Inclusive.
I love this so much, and I'm sitting here thinking about all the things we take for granted. I never even thought about how hard it could be just to put deodorant on.
There was a feeling of gratitude even as I saw this, but then also it was a feeling of like, wow, something that was brought to my attention that I didn't always really consider, a group of people who I didn't always truly consider. And the sadness that, you know, a basic need in this sense that was never addressed. And so I thought that it really brought that to, you know, to the forefront, that we're not considering even something like basic needs. And so I think that the fact that this solved a basic need for, you know, just hygiene, was something that was super powerful.
Yeah, and I think that lends to the strategy behind it. I think it's really evident where the insight was built around an underrepresented community or folks. And, you know, we've talked about this a lot as a jury, is about, you know, how do we move away from just kind of generally like nationally representative, you know, majority represented work, and actually focus on mining and understanding insights from, you know, historically marginalized or underrepresented groups. And this shows up loud and clear, right? And what I think is amazing about this is it also has mass appeal. So, you know, for me, I'd still love to use the product. So it's not about, you know, creating one product that's only for a set amount of people, but it's about building the strategy and the insight from folks who have been excluded from these conversations and still have that kind of broader, you know, impact for the rest. It reminds me of like Audible, right? That was started as for the hearing impaired, but that actually has mass you know, love and admiration from all the fans who do love Audible. So I think this is a great example of that inclusive strategy from the very beginning.
I definitely agree with that. One thing that stood out for this submission for me, you know, I personally have people in my family who are disabled, and the right to be able to take care of yourself and to maintain your hygiene is so incredibly important. And, you know, I think we've all echoed that it's pretty easy to take for granted if you're not thinking about this community very often. So for me, you know, watching this, I was very, very moved to see that somebody is finally listening to this community. And they said in their submission that they built it with, not for the community, which I thought was really impactful. And now I'm excited to see what they're going to do next and what other products that they will make accessible for all.
Do you feel that there's any form of innovation that this may have brought to the table in terms of how people advertise?
I think that it, especially even in our criteria, when we're looking at judging work, you know, is this something that's being considered in the work that has been being made? Or, you know, I think that it definitely changes the space of, you know, how we're thinking when we're looking at work, how work is being crafted, when we're ideating from the strategy stage all the way to implementation. I think that it is something that, you know, will make us more aware of, is it, again, are we considering marginalized groups in our work? Are we considering all people in our work? You know, are we making sure that we're taking the same steps, care, you know, for the work, and even in its being crafted, that I think that this body of work will represent in terms of how we think and how we, even as judges, look and consider work to be not just award winning in any sense, but just good work. And is it making change and impacting people the way that all of our work, you know, should, when we're talking about certain spaces.
So the thing that I think that this work did was that hopefully it innovates people to think when they're doing the work about how they can incorporate DE&I at all times. I believe that, you know, awards like the 3D awards and other DE&I awards should exist to point out exemplary work. But I do think that the truth of the matter is, hopefully this type of work will continue to inspire people within the advertising industry to start to think more inclusively and start to think you know, about how they diversify not just the work, but I know one of the criteria that we also outlined was the people behind the camera. And if I remember correctly, this was one of those pieces of work where they actually had people in the production team that belonged to this marginalized group. So it wasn't just the information, or it wasn't just about being informed by the group or reaching out to that community and getting the insights, but it was about actually including them in the production of the work. So I think that was a really great element of this particular work that was submitted. Last but obviously not least, we can dive into this year's winner, Tough Turban by Harley-Davidson.
Tying a turban, it's more than just a fashion statement. It's a whole heritage. It's your freedom to express yourself, your identity. And that's what riding is to me. Being on an open road, feeling the wind on you, it's just freedom.
Without my sense of pride or my religion or my turban, it's kind of like, who are you or what are you?
Having an option to wear the Tough Turban, I think it's amazing. I'm actually very excited to see how they pull this off.
Tradition is really important for a product like this.
When Sikhs used to ride into battle, they used to have chainmail, and then they used to tie their turbans on top of that.
And so we took a look at a chainmail-like matrix that would be incorporated into the traditional feeling turban. So the Dyneema is used in bulletproof clothing. We started to look at some non-Newtonian foams. One of the really exciting aspects of the foam is that it hardens on impact. So it really helps protect the rider.
When I first saw the Harley-Davidson Tough Turban, it really blew my mind in terms of the technology that they were using.
Yeah, this is cool.
This makes us feel part of the Harley family.
Tough Turban, a new innovation for motorcyclists.
Backed by Pfaff Harley-Davidson, the Tough Turban is open sourced to allow for any manufacturer in the world to create a reinforced turban and reach as many riders as possible.
I think that we all kind of collectively really, really love this piece. And I think first and foremost, I just want to hear from a few of you about why you thought this work was so great and so impactful.
I loved that aspect of them like delving into the history of the Sikh community and bringing the chainmail aspect into the design of the turban. Because like for a couple of reasons, like when everybody thinks of a Harley, they don't think of a South Asian man on the back of a Harley. Like we all know traditionally what someone that rides a Harley looks like. So for them to tap into that community that traditionally is not thought of, but then to take it the extra step and was like, okay, let's go into your history and see how we can bring a piece of that into the product development. Because they could have just said, oh, here's a helmet, put a helmet on, like it's not our problem. But they took that extra step. And I was like, oh, okay, so y'all were really actually invested in making this truly inclusive to this community. Like that's not an easy solve. That's not something that's easily done. So for me, that's what really like put them a step above of the other campaigns and was like, oh, okay, you all really did your research and really implemented this into this community. I was very impressed by that.
Yeah, they were also another piece of work that really tapped into the community directly, like all of what they decided upon in order to bring together not only the campaign, but to create this particular product was fully informed by the community and by the community's history. Like you said, Steph, like there was no other way for them to accomplish this, but to distinctly work with that community in order to create a solve.
Yeah, and I would add too, I think what I love about the work and what I found just so inspirational is how well and authentic it showed up as a brand too. So the focus on community and riders and it's riders for all. In some ways, it kind of democratizes that experience in the community for all. And, I just think like weaving the metal into that's crazy. Like, so there's just some really awesome like product innovation that was there, but then also most importantly, being aligned to the brand in an authentic way. that it wasn't just, I think from when we looked at the work and you could tell the strategies there, you could also tell this isn't something that a brand is just doing because it's on trend, that this is core to who they are. It's about the communities. It's about expanding the definition of what we think community is, and creating an experience that everyone can be part of, very similar to the Dove work as well, but just, the degree work. So just thinking through that, I think it's really, that was what was so inspirational from my end that I found truly amazing, is it was just such an authentic way to show up and be inclusive.
Yeah, I think what resonated for me was that there was some community listening, with this work, right? Like, here's a community who is having, even in a legal sense, a struggle, a battle of, compromising who I am, my identity, in, how I wear, my traditional garments, and not being able to also enjoy, the fact that I love riding motorcycles. I love Harley-Davidson. And so there was community listening in the sense of, how can we meet their need?
And Luis, you kind of hit on why this work was just so incredible for me. It was probably a demographic that's not their largest consumer base. So even when you think about, this is still a business, there's still, money that needs to be made, salaries that need to be paid. And the fact that they did not skimp on the technology, the materials, the innovation, no matter how large or small this group is, it didn't matter to them. They were like, part of our consumers have an issue, and it has to do with safety, and safety is important to us. And so that lets me know that Harley-Davidson does care about their consumers and the people that buy their products, no matter how big or small that demographic is. And so I'm not a motorcycle rider or anything like that, but it definitely makes me look at them in a different light and be like, oh, I may support an event now. I may engage with that brand where I never would have thought that would be something that's on their radar. So I think it also speaks to the fact that brands know that matters, not just to their consumers, but to their overall image and what they're doing. And just like we're seeing companies invest in sustainability, I think investing in DE&I is a long-term initiative and commitment. So I feel like Harley now is a brand that I think is made that investment. And so I'm excited to see what they come up with next for other groups that have different challenges with being writers.
It's also important to mention that they have open sourced those designs. So they're not just hoarding their Tough Turban design for themselves.
Yeah.
They're making this accessible to other people, other companies. And I believe I read in their materials that this has also spurred potential legislative action. So knowing that it is legal in Canada for Sikhs to ride a motorcycle without a helmet on, expanding that legal protection to other countries, other areas too.
It could have been held as proprietary information, but instead, and I think that's what, Erica was saying, it's a real investment in actual inclusivity. That's a genuine investment, because it's not about the bottom line. It's not about the money. It's about offering this level of safety to this marginalized group. So I definitely, I love what everyone has said about this work. And I think it only further solidifies why it ended up being the winner. Well, I think that's a wrap on the 3D Awards 2022 Winning Work Review. A huge thank you to our amazing board members and the jury team, to New York festivals, and of course to this year's entrants. We look forward to seeing what you bring to the table next year.